I live in a fairly small city. We have a pretty impressive mall called Destiny USA. It's huge, pretty much like 7 stories in some parts. It's the 6th largest mall in the United States, or something like that. You're probably wondering why I'm rambling on about this, but it plays a big part in the story. Like normal teenagers, me and my best friend at the time went there quite often. One Saturday, my dad dropped us off at around 3:30 and we began walking around. About 2 hours after we got there were these 2 guys who were really loud and making really unnecessary gross comments to each other about us as we walked by. They made sure we heard it too and were staring us down. We were only 14 at the time, but we've gotten catcalled quite a few times despite our age. Disgusting, I know, so we really didn't think much of it at first. Not even 2 minutes later, I look back for whatever reason and realize that the 2 guys from before are walking behind us. I'm a little uneasy from this, but I'm not too worried. I tell my friend anyways, and we decided to keep going and take unexpected turns into the stores to make sure that they weren't following us. We went into various stores on that floor, and we came out, and they were always lingering nearby on a bench, but not actually sitting down, and they always began walking again as soon as we exited the store. At this point, we were panicking because neither of us were large or intimidating. I was only 5'2", and my friend was about 4'9", and neither of us weighed any more than 105 pounds. We speed walked to the nearest elevator, trying not to let them know we caught on to them following us. We pushed a random button and ended up getting on the floor underneath the one we were previously on. We walk around for a while until we see the same guys coming from the opposite direction towards us. My friend alerts me about it, and we go back to where we came from and took the escalator up to another floor and then ran over to a section of the mall that was recently built. After we were a good distance to the new section of the mall, we started peeking over the railing onto the floor below us. It doesn't take too long for these 2 guys to show up there, frantically looking around, trying to figure out where we were. As I mentioned before, our mall is huge. It's super unlikely to see the same person in there twice, let alone multiple times, in a matter of 15 minutes. I started planning in my head what we were going to do, but soon I realized that since they were directly underneath us, even if we decided to take off, there's a balcony sort of thing on all the floors that allows you to look both down onto the floors below you and onto the higher floors, which means that they could pretty much see us anywhere we decided to go. It's kind of hard to explain into detail. We tried sneaking into a nearby store and out of view of these 2 creeps, all the while praying that they don't look up at the floor above them. And just then, we hear a loud, "There they are! Come on, let's go!" We look back and one of the guys is pointing at us, and they're both looking at us with an angry expression. They start booking it to one of the escalators that lead to the floor we were currently on. Me and my friend are in full panic mode by now. She's hyperventilating, and I'm feeling like I'm going to throw up. So we start sprinting, trying to get away from them. We continue running, but starting to slow down from the exhaustion. But now, the 2 dudes are off the escalator and are now almost directly adjacent from us. My friend tells me to text my dad and tell him that we were ready to leave, and to get his car from the parking lot and bring it up front to the entrance to pick us up. Luckily, my dad usually drops us off, then he goes shopping on his own for a while we're walking around. Therefore, if anything happens, he isn't far away, and we can meet up with him easily. So we're frantically running around this huge building, scared to death, trying to text my dad while these 2 intimidating dudes are running after us, gaining speed and getting closer by the minute. Luckily, we get to the entrance of the mall, and we see my dad, and that's when the 2 guys that were following us started to back off. I'm very thankful for my dad, since the security guards at the mall were basically useless, and no bystanders asked us what we were running or hiding from. It may not have seemed too scary, but it was terrifying, given that we were only 14. It's been about a year since this happened, but this and a few other scary encounters is what caused me to buy a taser, mace, and a huge hunting knife. I still don't know how they were able to find us so fast, given how big this mall actually is. I'm 17 years old and a bit of a stoner. I live in a pretty large city in Ontario that up until the past 2 years was known for its safety. Now our city has this huge mall, which is basically in the center of downtown public transportation. If you need to get anywhere in the city, You can get to it from this mall, so a popular place for delinquents like me was the mall rooftop. It was completely open to the public, and it had a gigantic window garden that had many paths, picnic tables, benches, twists and turns, trees and shrubs. There's even squirrels and bunnies that live up there because it's so green. The mall is so big that it's practically the main attraction of my city, and the garden was almost the entire roof. Not to mention that there were almost no cameras, and that place was huge. I'll also mention here that the mall had a bunch of curved and pyramid-shaped skylights that you could easily get to from the roof and lean against, looking down at all the shoppers below. So I'm 17 years old and just bought a queue of weed in the West End and was on my way to meet my friends downtown to chill. I arrived downtown at the shopping mall where we agreed to meet. Once there, my friend informed me that she would be running late and wouldn't be there for about 2 hours. No problem, I told her, as this gave me time to inspect the weed and roll a joint for myself. So I would wander up to the rooftop where most of the kids like me burn, and I spent about 10 minutes walking through the winding paths, finding a secluded area, out of sight of the cameras and other people. I finally found a place and sat down pretty excited to inspect the weed. As I have the baggie out and am being impressed with the quality, I hear out of the corner of my ear, "Hey." Startled, thinking it might be a security guard, I look up, quickly smashing the weed back into my backpack. I then notice it's just some guy in his late 20s, possibly early 30s, wearing some tattered clothes, just staring at me. I get the weirdest vibe from him, because I hadn't seen him from a more populated part of the roof, or anywhere I had been scoping out as a potential spot. He also has this really creepy teeth-baring smile. Not to mention, this happened about only 1 minute after I'd sat down. Hey, I responded, "What's up?" He then walked up really close to me and asked, "Can I sit down?" Not wanting to anger him at this point, I could tell he seemed really unstable, and I responded, Sure." Most of the homeless people around here are mentally ill, and it's no secret that some of them sleep and live on the top of the roof of the mall. He then sat down beside me, and I started texting every friend in my address book random stuff to make myself look busy. He started saying a bunch of stuff like, "You're really beautiful. I've never talked to such a pretty girl," etc., etc. It kept going on like this, and it really started to creep me out for about 5 minutes. Then, his questions started getting even creepier. "How old are you? Are you here by yourself? Do you have a boyfriend?" Even though I didn't have a boyfriend, my friend wasn't supposed to be here for another hour and a half. I reply with, "Yeah, I do. In fact, we're supposed to be meeting right now. I'm just waiting for him." He then leaned into me, getting uncomfortably close, and the words that he said still chill me when I think of them. "Oh, I knew a sexy girl like you would be taken. Still, can I have a hug?" Just at that moment, one of my friends I had just casually texted responded, "Hey." I was thankful, because this means her phone is in front of her, or at least nearby. I told him to hold on a second, because I had to call my boyfriend because he was supposed to be here in about 15 minutes. I call this girl I'm texting, and just pray my phone volume is low enough so he can't hear anything she's saying. The conversation goes like this: "Hey babe, I've been waiting for you. What are you doing?" My friend responds with, "What are you talking about?" And then I say, "What do you mean you're here? I've been waiting for you on the roof for like 20 minutes. Then she says, "What? We didn't have any plans today. What are you talking about?" Then I said, "Oh wait, you're downstairs? I thought you said meet on the roof." "I'm coming down right now. I'll see you in a second." And then I hung up the phone. I then look at the guy, giggle awkwardly, and say, "My boyfriend is waiting for me. I have to go. Bye." I then proceed to run out of the winding, secluded area of the garden as fast as I have ever run in my entire life. I keep looking over my shoulder to see if he was following me, but he's not. As I get to the populated picnic area near the doors that let you onto the roof, I breathe a sigh of relief. I get back into the mall and grab the escalator down. Just then, I decide to look back up at the skylights near the entrance of the roof. Right then, I froze. There he was, the creepy roof guy, his entire body leaning on the skylight, staring down at me. No smile anymore, just the creepiest, most dead look on his face I have ever seen. I ran down the escalator and away from the skylights. Thankfully, I haven't encountered him since. I recently started working security at a mall. This job really wasn't for me, because I'm neither a wannabe cop or do I get off on power trips, but I do enjoy some aspects of it. I like a lot of the people I work with, and I like being prepared for emergencies. I train like crazy in case of a fire or a bomb threat. I study main designs and evacuation plans so that if something happens, I can get people out safely. The vast majority of the time, I work a fake job. I walk or drive around the site so that people can see that the security is there. Most of my job is just security theater, but sometimes I have to do legitimate work. Sometimes I stop people from breaking into your car or break up fights. And though you may think I'm useless most of the time, when push comes to shove, you'd rather someone be there than not. Friday nights are pretty messed up. Teenage kids flock to the mall just like they have since the 1980s. For those of you in the Malgren's generation, it's become a shadow of its former self thanks to the internet and online gaming, but a fair amount of kids, and overgrown kids, still show up. And, as always, the crowds cause problems. Friday night, they stationed me by the food court. This is a prime location for kids. It's where most of them get picked up by their parents. It's where most of them strut and fawn, and make anyone over 20 cringe with their transparent ridiculousness. Last Friday, I'm walking my route as I see about 20 or so people moving as a group towards the exit. This is not a good sign. I follow them from behind as they surround a few kids sitting on a bench. Something is going down. I radio dispatch for backup and advise the situation. I'm comparatively huge, so I could see over everyone's head. I could see an older guy, maybe 40, pointing semi-violently at some young kid, probably around 15. The kid looks scared, but the guy looks like crazy white trash. I move in through the crowd and get closer. If the guy puts his hand on the kid, I'll have to do something. "Don't touch him, man. Just don't." I yell something like that. "Okay, everyone, break it up." But the guy will not back up. He's a little guy, no bigger than the kid. He has something to prove. A Napoleon complex, possibly. I don't want to get into a fight here. I don't want to get sued. He pulls his arm back, and I know he's going to hit the kid. I used to work as a bouncer, and I know how to control people like this. I grab him by the forearm as his hand is back, and he struggles. I roll him in close, surrounding him, and putting my arm around his chest from behind. My backup arrives, and he starts clearing the crowd back. He says the cops are coming, though I didn't hear him radio them. I'm still holding this guy, and I can smell something on him, not liquor. It smells almost like burning rubber. I'm 80% sure this guy smells like crack. The cops arrive, and they take the guy, take my statement, and talk to the kid. I wait with the kid until his mom comes to get him, and we talk. He thanks me, which is always nice, and he claims to have no idea who the guy was. He said that the guy was saying something about, "Don't you touch my kid," but he has no idea what kid he's talking about. He never touched anyone. After his mom gets him, I stay late to write my stupid report. We have to write these reports anytime anything remotely interesting happens. They claim that they're legal documents, but I think it's just something stupid. I finish up and head to my car. It's about 10:30, and the parking lot was empty. As I get to my car, I see some headlights turn on from another car a few rows over. I didn't see anyone walking to their car, but I was tired, so maybe I just didn't pay close enough attention. As I leave, the lights seem to follow me. No matter what I do, they're still behind me. It's a white car, possibly a Charger. I can't quite tell at the time. It definitely has the crossbeam front of the modern Dodges. I test if he's following me. I pull into another parking lot and take a ridiculous route, and he's behind me the whole time, back onto the main road. I can't go back to my house now. I drive to the local police station because I know a few cops there. I go in and say hi. I pull into the parking lot, and he keeps driving. I go home fine with no incident. Saturday, I go into work again. This time, I'm working a bit earlier, from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I get done, go home without incident. Around 2:20, I head back out, and I see a white Dodge sedan parked across the street from me. When I look over, they turn on the engine, and the lights pop on, and it drives away. I get home at about 3 o'clock on Sunday and find a dead squirrel on my front steps. I'm a bit intoxicated at this point, so I go in and go to bed. Today, around 1 o'clock, I check and see if the squirrel is gone, and it was. And a little bit later, I go out to drive to work, but my car won't start and won't even try to turn over. I've never had anything like this happen. I have no idea what's going on. I turn the key a bit, and all the electrical stuff works, and then I go to start it, and everything shuts off. I pop my hood up, and everything looks fine. I call my friend, and he gives me a ride to work. I do my shift like normal, and get off pretty late. I take a cab home, and when I get there, a lot is wrong. My car is gone, my front door is open, and my dog is missing. And I can see a white Dodge sedan parked a few houses down. I have the cab drive me to the police station. I closed the front door, but didn't touch anything else. I already met with a detective, and he said that the guy I mentioned earlier is a possibility. They only held him for a few hours. Apparently attempting to punch a kid isn't enough of a crime to keep you in custody. He might be after me. He said that they'll file a report, check out my house, and check up on the guy, but there's not much else that they can really do right now. He said that I shouldn't hold out much hope for my dog, and the car is a crapshoot. Most of the time they'd wind up ditched somewhere nearby, but he says it would be best if I stayed somewhere else for the night. I don't make a lot of money, and the closest hotel is a Sheraton, which costs me about $150 a night, and a little bit more for internet access. I can't afford to stay there long, maybe a day or two. I'll have to go home eventually. I won't lie, I'm pretty scared because this guy didn't seem too stable, and he seems to be focusing his crazy on me. And at this point, I'm really getting tired of dealing with this. I think I'm going to purchase a gun and go home tomorrow. My senior year of high school, and all throughout my winter and summer breaks from college, I worked at a kiosk in my hometown mall that was associated with a local tattoo shop. We sold some body jewelry, lighters, and other random crap like that. I really liked the job. I felt cool because people thought I was cool for working there, and because my job was to convince them to buy way overpriced body jewelry, which I happened to be good at. On this particular day, I was home from summer break after my freshman year of college and working at the kiosk one afternoon. My brother was graduating from middle school, and that day I was waiting for my shift to end and for my parents to come pick me up to go to the ceremony. During the summer, usually only one person worked a shift, unless it was Friday or Saturday night, since most people were out at the beach or doing some other outdoor activities. As my shift was ending, it suddenly became very busy, and I was scrambling to help all the various customers I could. An older guy came up to the stand and asked for my business card. I handed him one and didn't pay much attention to it. After all, he was walking away. I had already given him what he wanted, and he kept his head down, so I went back to helping the other customers. A few minutes later, the phone rang in my store, and I answered it. "Hello, this is Small Kitten. How can I help you?" The voice on the other end of the line told me that he was the man who had just stopped by and asked for my business card. Immediately, I thought that was weird. Why didn't he just ask me whatever it was while he was here? But his next sentence cleared it up pretty quickly for me. "I was wondering if you'd like to go out with me sometime." I said thank you, and then I was flattered, but I would have to decline and end the conversation. I left to meet my parents and didn't think anything of it. A few days later, I was working alone again when the phone rang, and I answered it as always. "Hello, this is Small Kitten. Thank you for calling. How can I help you?" It was the same man from the other day, asking me out yet again. Once again, I told him it was very nice of him to ask, but I was not interested. And then he responded, "Well then, I'll be waiting for you to get out of work." I didn't even know what to do. I hung up the phone and did my best to not start sobbing, as I was again working alone. Fortunately, because of my nature of my job, lots of really sweet but yet scary looking mall rats hung out around my store, and my very tall friend, who happened to have dreadlocks and was very facially pierced, stood by me at work the whole day while I called the police and my boss. I filed a million reports, but there was really nothing anyone could do if I didn't see him actually do anything. Unfortunately, his face was hazy to me because he had approached me at a time when I was helping other customers. I constantly wondered if he was actually in the mall, staring at me or even talking to me, and I would never know it. The guy continued to call and harass all the other female employees that worked at my store for almost a year with many sexual threats. Everyone was escorted to their car at the end of the night by mall security, and this continued for a long time after I went back to school. By the end of the summer, I had regressed to wearing only baggy clothes and sweats with very little makeup because I didn't want to attract any extra attention to myself. Even though this happened close to 10 years ago, I still don't feel comfortable wearing tight or revealing clothing.